Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Sustainable Library. So today we're talking about plant-based eating, and we're in a little bit of a different space. So we're in our kitchen, and I am actually going to kind of do like a little interview with my husband, who is our chef, about in the house, and he makes most of our food, and ask him about, plant-based eating and why he likes us eating plant-based and likes cooking plant-based. So we moved over to eating more plant-based about a year and a half ago. So we are not 100% vegan. We don't eat 100% vegan. We still, have from time to time, we'll have some normal yogurt. I definitely still eat cheese. I haven't had any red meat for over 10 years. But my husband still has some meat at some points. Sometimes, you'll have chicken and that kind of thing. But probably 98% of our diet is plant-based. So one of the reasons why we went plant-based was, for me personally, was because of digestion problems. When we moved to the UK, I had a lot of problems, and it was kind of like helped on by things like stress and things like that. But when I started looking into things like my hormones and how I was eating, I started realizing that there were certain things that could help me with my digestion problems. And as we started eating more plant-based, these problems started to clear up. I started to understand my body more, and we're also quite big on running and cycling recently, cycling as well. And we found, since moving to a more plant-based diet, we actually have more energy. So there's a lot of science, and there's a lot of things around, whether it's better to be vegan for, training and exercise. I'm not an expert on that. There are some really interesting things to read and documentaries to watch. But this is just from our personal experience. We have found that it's been giving us more energy to eat more plant-based, and that you can almost recover quicker when eating plant-based. So today we are making a soup. We are making roast tomato soup because look at this weather. It's like terrible rainy English weather, even though it's actually supposed to be summer. So yeah, let's go look at what my husband is doing. So what do we have here?
So this is just like a modified recipe. It's pretty common for, I guess, what you'd expect for a roast tomato soup, but kind of, we had a couple of extra things in the fridge that found their way in here. So we have about half a kilogram of tomatoes, 1 red onion, 1 white onion or yellow onion, 3 cloves of garlic, and 1 red pepper. And then once all of that's roasted, we'll also just chuck in like 100 grams of spinach as well, really, because it kind of needs to get used up.
So no food waste.
Yeah, so it's kind of everything that was left in the fridge that could go into the tomato soup, and now it's ready to go in.
Okay, so let's put it in.
Roasted at 200 degrees Celsius for 25 minutes.
Nice. So, James, tell me, why do you like cooking plant-based recipes?
Well, like you've seen with this, that was literally everything that we had left in the fridge that wouldn't find its way into something else. And I think that's the biggest thing, is plant-based. It's very difficult to cook something where the ingredients clash. You might have something that dominates more than others, but everything works. If you try to mix some meats together, it would be quite strange. If you try to add, lamb and chicken in a stew, it would probably taste very, very weird. And that's not the case with plant-based, which I think is really, really great.
guy eating more plant-based, I mean, there's a lot of stereotypes about, you know, you have to eat meat. What difference do you feel it made in your diet to eat more plant-based?
I think you, even if you perhaps overeat or eat too much, you never really feel kind of ill or anything like that. I think it's just easier for your body to kind of digest and process, and that just makes it better at the end of the day.
And do you feel healthier eating plant-based?
Definitely.
So would you recommend plant-based eating for, you know, people, and how would you recommend kind of starting to go plant-based?
I think look definitely recommend it, and then I think look for easy substitutions. So like for now, just to try and make this a little bit thicker and maybe a bit more tomatoey, I'm just adding in some kind of just tomato concentrate or tomato puree. So I think if you want to start out, just try substitute. I think for me, the biggest thing that I substituted, which I prefer, is kind of like the corn mince, which I prefer over beef mince or even like a turkey or an ostrich mince. And that I think was the easy substitute to make.
And what do you think about cost? What's the comparative cost between eating plant-based and eating more meat?
I think that if you're willing to start with it very raw, then I think it's cheaper to go plant-based. If you go pre-packaged, pre-cut kind of stuff, it adds up, and then maybe you're in a bit of a situation where a meat or non-plant-based will be cheaper. But I do think if you start as raw as you can, basically as close to just pluck from the roots, you'll land up in a good spot.
And the last question for me, what's your stance on having like a combined plant-based and meat, or not just meat, kind of, you know, all kinds of animal product diet?
I mean, I've never really been a big fan of lamb or pork, so I kind of didn't really miss them. I do really love a beef burger every once in a while. I won't cook it per se, and I don't think I've bought beef or chicken for almost a year now. But not to say that I wouldn't eat it at a restaurant or if there was another place where it was provided. But I would probably not buy it. I don't really eat much fish anymore, although I do really love tinned sardines and tuna. But kind of a salmon or something like that, I don't really eat anymore. But again, if it was presented to me, I would eat it. But yeah, and I think it's also considering you plant-based for the most part is less impact on the environment and is more kind of carbon friendly and all of that, and emissions friendly. The difficulty comes in is you could find somebody who's 100% vegan, but all their food comes packaged, or it's just from a packaging perspective, from a plastic perspective, all of that. It's also brings into question, are they doing the right thing? Where if you're a more, call it raw, as close to the source, minimal packaging, etc., that's something you also need to consider.
So I'm so glad I could share with you guys some of our perspectives on plant-based eating. As you can hear, it's very much finding that balance that works for you. Where I, for example, would never eat red meat because I don't like it, and because cows are my favorite animal. That doesn't mean that I don't allow my husband to do it, because, you know, it's about finding that balance. I think a really important thing that he mentioned is considering, once again, thinking about sustainable lifestyle, the impact of the food that you're buying. If you're buying pre-packaged and you know, frozen vegan meals, or only buying tofu or that kind of thing, you're creating a lot of plastic waste. So it's really about finding that balance and figuring out what kind of plant-based meals work for you. So I mean, an easy thing to start with is your meat-free Mondays, and then take it from there. Obviously, do what's good for your health, but I think from both of us, we can highly recommend going plant-based. And yeah, we're gonna enjoy our yummy soup now. Thank you guys for watching. Until next time, let's live sustainably.